ratio tables. I'm going to do the first one, and I'm going to try to show you all the patterns the easiest way. There's two easy ways. You can always work left to right on a ratio table. And sometimes you can find an easy pattern up to down. But we're going to start left to right. So for example, it's very easy for me to go from 48 to 12 because I know that 12 times 4 is 48. So 48 divided by 4 is 12. Does that make sense? So I'm going to do the same thing down here. And then I get 24 divided by 4 is 6. Okay? So I could then say, well, it's kind of hard for me to get from 6 to 8, but it's not very hard for me to get from 24 to 8. Because 8 times what is 24? 3. Do you see that? So divide by 3, 24 divided by 3 gives me 8, so I'm going to do 48 divided by 3. You can see why it's really handy to know your math facts. 48 divided by 3 is 16. After you get a couple of numbers established, you might notice there's a pattern going this way, from top to bottom. 12 divided by 2 is 6. Did you notice that? 16 divided by 2 is 8. So 1 divided by 2 is, remember, fraction bars being divided. 1 divided by 2 is just 1/2. So 1/2 is what goes right there. Roman.
No pattern?
Yes, but there's not always patterns up, down.
Yeah, not all.
Not always. Yeah, but on these there are. So that's what you want to notice. You want to be able to work it both ways. Grace.
So what I draw?
I should restate that. There's always a pattern up, down, but it's not so easy to find all the time.
Yeah.
So you want to have your ability to go left, right, too. In a ratio table, you'll have patterns vertically and horizontally, but sometimes one's easier than the other. Grace.
So, now that I looked at it in class, I see like a pattern left to right.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did last night was
You went the up, down.
I went up, down.
That's okay.
So I thought that 12 it would be 24 because I thought that that would be half of what I actually did. Like that's not half of like the bottom number is half of that. I did it the other way around.
Right. So now you can fix it. Thanos and then Bailey.
If you have someone that doesn't know what a ratio table is, how would you explain it to them? Because
I'd
last
have
time
them watch this
I
video.
needed help from my mom, and she didn't even know what a ratio table was.
Yeah, I know. So try it tonight. I'll post a video.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going. To get from 1/2 to 1, you're double. Just times by 2. So double that and you get 2. But also, you guys, if going from the top to bottom is a division problem, going from the bottom to the top is a multiply problem. So 2, for example, times 8 is 16. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay? Now to get to 7, you can just do 2 ways. The easiest way is to recognize that going from the top to the bottom is a division problem. Divide it in half. So 7 divided by 2 is just 7/2. Fraction bars mean divide. So 2 goes into 7 3 times, and there's a remainder of 1. So 3.5 is here. If that's hard for you, think of 7 as $7. A lot of you guys can just split $7 in half easier than the number 7. Because you like money. Leanna first.
So, it's when I did this when I did my tutor,
Yeah,
I got the same answer.
excellent. Good, Grace.
So I get kind of confused like with the unsimplifying thing. Is there like how would you do that?
How did I get from here to here?
Well, I get how you did it, but like how if it was some I just feel like
So what I would do is let's do a few more, and if you could point out ones you need me to explain, I can do that, and then otherwise we could just practice maybe in the morning ones. Bailey. Okay, good question. So there's different ways. I noticed the pattern from top to bottom, right, was divide by 2. So 1 divided by 2, remember fraction bars being divided, 1 divided by 2 is 1/2. The other way you could have done it, if you were working left to right, it's harder, but it still works, is you could have said, I know to get from 16 to 1, I have to divide by 16. So that means I would have to divide 8 by 16. And Grace, this might be your question. So do you see why I would divide by 16?
Yeah.
And that reduces because 8 goes into itself once and it goes into 16 twice. So you could have gone left, right, or up, down. I did up, down because it was easier. Okay? So let's do the second one. Let's try left, right, and then we'll do up, down. So 24 divided by what is 6? Courtney.
Well, 4.
Okay, so Bella, what would I have to do here?
Do 6 divided by 4.
6 divided by 4 is just 6/4, and that's the same as 3/2. You see that?
Okay. That's what we're doing.
So you could write 3/2, or, Grace, that would be 1, because 2 goes into 3 once, and there's a remainder of 1. The remainder goes on top, and the divisor stays on the bottom.
So you can simplify it and then simplify it again.
Yes.
Get even simpler.
Right. So this one's a little harder, because going up, down didn't make it any easier. Because to get from the top to the bottom, you ended up just dividing by 4. Okay? So, for example, here, it's easy for me to get from 6 to 2 by division, divide by
2, 3.
3, right? So I have to divide 24 by 3.
8.
8, nice. But remember, if I'm going down, I'm dividing by 4, so guess what? If I'm going up, I'm multiplying by 4. So some of you might have noticed that 6 times 4 is 24, so 2 times 4 would be 8. Okay. How do I get from 8 to 1? What do you do?
Divide by 8.
And what do you get when you divide by 8? Dog? So you get 1, but that's right. On the bottom is what I meant, down here. If I divide by 8 there, it's just, you have it upside down, 2 divided by 8, which is the same as 1 divided by 4, right. So in that case, is it easier just to do the top divided by the bottom? 1 divided by 4 is just 1/4. And to go from the bottom to the top, I have to multiply by 4, right? So wouldn't it be easy to go from the bottom to the top here? I would just have 4. Bailey. Okay, that's a great question. How about multiply 1 1/2 by 4? Think of $1.50. That's 1 1/2, isn't it? Times it by 4, or you can add $1.54 times. That's one way. In this case, in this problem, I would say it's the easiest way. So 5, 10, 15, 20, carry the 2, like $6, so this is 6. But, did you notice there was already a 1 1/2 here? So you already had the answer. Jack, question? Okay, one more. Okay, so left, right, what they do? Divide by Bella. Divide by 2. Same 2 girls' hands are going up. So let's call on a few other people. So Grace, divide by 2 for me. 3. Good. Okay. So Lannon, can you get from 6 to 2?
No.
Really?
Well,
Can you think of a math fact?
if you divide it by 3.
Perfect. I think you're going to show me something else, which I'm going to listen to in a minute. 48 divided by 3, then. What do you have? 48 divided by 3. Not sure? 16. Okay. So, Leanne, go ahead. What did you notice something else?
No.
Nathan, help me with the next one. Do you notice, or answer my next question. What's the pattern, Nathan, to go from top to bottom here?
Divided by, divide by 2, and then times.
To go from 48 to 6, what'd you say? Divide by 8. So, do you notice that is easy? 16 divided by 8 is 2. So Nathan, what's 1 divided by 8? 1/8. Good job. Remember, fraction bars being divided. 1 divided by 8 is just 1/8. So that's 1/8 here. Okay. So, Lannon.
So for the next one,
Yeah. You go this way.
no.
What'd you do?
So what I did was it's kind of like, basically what I did was, basically what we were, doing.
So I could get from 2 to 1 by dividing it by 2.
Yeah.
So that means I would have to take 16 and divide by 2. What do you get, Bailey? You get 8. Or remember, if you're going from top to bottom, you're dividing by 8. You could go the reverse direction and times by 8. Right? 1 times 8 is 8. Now we're back to the 1.5. Anybody have a suggestion, Keely? Sydney? It's no. So, how about, let's see if she can come up with it. What are you doing in your head?
Adding, I'm adding, 1.5
So she's doing 1.5 times
times by 8.
8 because she's going from the bottom to the top.
And
What do you think, Dad? How'd you get from 1 to 1.5?
So it's 12. So that one was harder, huh? Bailey. The way I got 1/8?
Yeah.
Well, I know that there's 2 ways. I noticed to get from 16 to 1, I'd have to divide by 16. So I could divide 2 by 16. 2 divided by 16 has a factor of 2 in common, so I get 1/8. But also I noticed to go from the top to the bottom is divide by 8, so I just take 1 and divide it by 8. Get 1/8. So it's easier to do that. In this case, it's just a matter of what do you see first. So you can work left to right, or you can work top to bottom. You just can't break the rules. Here's one other way that you could get the half. If that 12 was hard for you, there's no reason you couldn't have put a half over here. Because divide by 2 and you get a half. 8 divided by 2 gives you a 4, right? Now if I add this column plus this column, I get 1 plus a half is 1.5, and 8 plus 4 is 12. You could add columns. A few people in a class of about 26 kids, there's usually 3 or 4 kids that prefer that. It's just an option, not a requirement. I'm going to stop